Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it to grow. Susie Granger, DRDA. Susie, it's been way too long since I've seen you. You're looking good.
Thank you.
I ran into a friend of mine, that we talk regularly on Zoom calls, and we realized in this group that we're in, we realized we hadn't seen each other in a year and a half. How long are you and I?
It's been at least 2 years. I believe it was
it's ridiculous.
America West, maybe, was the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We miss all our friends. Katie, good to see you. Katie's back in the saddle, ready to go. Susie, by the way, is Katie's SBA mom, her aunt. Susie has given her great advice on SBA, and she's still working here. So, Susie, you did it. We're going to talk about what Susie has and what she's doing, and we're going to update on 401ks. But first, this question came up from a friend of mine, and we were going through the dates, and we were scratching our heads, so we thought, hey, this would be a good thing to talk about. What is the deadline to file for forgiveness on PPP loan funded in April 2020? Obviously, this is first draw.
This is a lot of math to do.
Yeah, I know.
That's a tricky one.
Very good. Excellent. They got it right, Katie.
Yeah, they did. So the thing you had to know was, so if it's funded in April, then the covered period would be somewhere between June 25th and October 15th is when that would be ending. And so then the latest date would have been August 15th.
So it's 10 months after the covered period. That's the thing to remember. It's 10 months. And we had advised people to hold off before the end of the year regarding whether this income was going to be taxable. It's been resolved at the federal level. There's still maybe some outlier states that may want to try to tax this. But there's no reason to wait, Katie. You've done a lot of more research on this than I have. There's no reason to wait. We should get this in as possible, right?
Not necessarily. I think in most cases, definitely they can go ahead and start applying for forgiveness as soon as that date is over. However, the only reason I would think anybody would want to wait now would be to see if there's something like blanket forgiveness.
Yeah.
Or they expect some major changes in Congress and in SBA. But I don't really see that happening now. We're not really hearing about that anymore. So probably they can go ahead and apply as soon as that their covered period ends.
And remember, it is based on date submitted, not date approved by SBA. So once it's submitted, then the clock stops, and that's important. So we don't need to have approval. So if something's being hung up over 90 days, don't lose too much sleep over it, because it is in a, limbo status. So when do payments start if you do not file for forgiveness based on this scenario? And what we took this from is directly from the 3508S. It says if a borrower received their PPP loan proceeds in April 2020, the first day covered period, the covered period could end anywhere from June 14th, 2020 to October 4th, 2020. And how'd they do?
They're exactly right. So when that deferral period ends, they need to start making payments. So that August 15th, if that's when the deferral ends, that's also the last date where they would be able to file for forgiveness without having to make payments. Yeah, and this is critical. We did a webinar yesterday on global cash flow, and you need to address this in the credit memo that if they don't have forgiveness, you need to have some sort of analysis. Either A, we believe they're going to be forgiven, but have that in the cash flow if they're not. That's why if they're applying for a 7A loan, I would strongly encourage you to go through that forgiveness process so you know you don't have that. Because if you if you don't put that in the cash flow and you have issues, you were going to get a knock on the door from someone with a badge that says OIG. Now I'm being melodramatic. Susie, what do you do and what's going on? Oh, I'm sorry. Now I'm the one off script. Normally Lance is. Have you used a 401k retirement plan to fund an equity injection for one of your borrowers for SBA 7A or 504?
There you go, Susie, 50-50.
That's great.
So tell us what you do, and first of all, tell us what you do.
Okay, Bob, I am the sales and marketing manager for an accounting firm down in Houston. The name of our company is DRDA. We've got a 45-year focus on small businesses and their owners. So because of that, besides your typical tax returns and audit work and bookkeeping, which we do, we've got a large arm of consultative tools aimed at helping the entrepreneur to start, to grow, and to exit their business successfully. I get to be on the front end of that train under the Borsa program. A Borsa is a ROBS type structure where your borrower can access retirement funds for IRA, 401k, other types of qualified plans, tax and penalty free, and use it as their equity injection in a 7A or 504 loan. So we've been providing this structure since 2003. DRDA provides a single employer 401k plan, and that's important. If your borrower is seeking SBA funding, those deals can be made with in-house lending authority.
Very good. And the reason why this is important, the Form 1919 was revised and included some changes in this process. Well, first of all, you're going to have a webinar next Wednesday. Tell us about that.
Yes, so Wednesday, April 28th from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock Eastern, 2 to 3 Central. I kind of want to have a roundtable discussion and just a brief overview of the program. And then I'd like to talk about the new Form 1919 and, how that needs to go. It's for most borrowers, they're never going to see Section 3 of this new form. But for folks that have used retirement funds, or maybe they've used ESOP and other entity types, Section 3 is important on the new 1919. We were very pleased to see this change because it makes it very clear right from the beginning who's who and what's what.
Good. And this is a free webinar?
Yes, of course.
Good.
And I'm offering a door prize for all attendees.
What's the door prize?
$100, baby.
Whoa! All right. Katie and I will sign up. Yeah, well, I think this is something conflict of interest. I don't know what that is. Susie, I know you've done a number of these transactions. What has changed in the last 6 months in your business? What has changed because of COVID? It's an open-ended question in terms of attitude, in terms of risk aversion, in terms of risk taking. What do you see? What do you see as the big change in your little niche of the world?
So for the first 6 months of the shutdown, we were affected as well. We did, a little bit of business, but not near our normal.
I like your office there.
Yeah, well, that's another story. But about 6 months in, we started getting busy again. And I attribute the kind of slowdown at the beginning that people were being able to access retirement funds more liberally because of the CARES Act. And then when that stopped in December, of course, we got busy again. And I think a big part of it is so many people were laid off during this time.
Oh, sure. Let's see. So transactions. Business acquisition, franchise, startups.
I'm seeing more and more franchise businesses right now.
Right.
A lot of people buying resale franchises, which I think is a fantastic opportunity.
Average equity injection. Just give me an average of what the lenders are asking in these type of transactions. I know it's all over the board, but just an average.
Well, it depends on,
I know it depends.
But my common man is going to access between 100 and 200 grand.
And that could be anywhere from 20% to 50%, right?
Some people will combine retirement funds with hard dollars. So, it just depends on the deal size and whatnot. But generally, I see 100 to 200 going. I've seen as much as $1.5 million going. It was a group of folks that were putting together a pretty awesome resort RV park here in Texas. I had one person roll $1 million all by herself. So that was pretty impressive. And she invested in real estate.
Good. What's the SBA's attitude toward these plans today?
So it's the same as it always was. There just wasn't accountability in the past. Now it's very clear. It's laid out so beautifully in the SOP. The 1919 is really going to help as well. I know there's some lenders out there like, oh my goodness, this is kind of complex. And it is a little complex. And we're happy to spend the time next week to kind of break it down a little bit and help folks understand what needs to happen. It just brings a lot of clarity to what we're doing. I love that they separated out single employer plans from multi-employer plans. I think that's appropriate for them to scrutinize multi-employer plans much more so than a single employer plan. But it's still being done all day, every day, all across the country. Very popular service.
Susie, I come to you and I want to buy a franchise and I want to do a Holiday Inn Express. How long is it going to take for you to get this transaction?
For our portion,
yeah.
Well, for you, Bob, you're in California. For most of the country, it's 30 days. My friends in California and South Carolina, it's 45 days at a minimum because those states are pretty slow in processing right now.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much for that update. That's awesome. Take advantage of that. And Susie, are you one of those chomping at the bit to get back on a plane? Or are you like me? We're going, maybe I'll wait a while.
I am fully vaccinated. My bag is packed. I'm looking for the first.
Your bag is packed. You're ready to go. All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, stick around. We're going to talk about some more SBA stuff.
I'm going to have to hop, y'all, but thank you so much.
Oh, you're going to hop off. Oh, you're playing talent here. I am here. Give me the royal wave. Give me the royal wave.
It's so nice to see you all.
Susie, thank you very much for joining us.
Webinar. Don't forget to register.
Okay, thank you. All right, Katie, what do we got here?
Yeah, so we've calculated out the covered period and deferral period, just in case people are still kind of confused about that one. I think most people on the call did get those questions right, though, so that was, most people do seem to understand this. There's the, this is just from the actual rule right here, and it says that after that covered period, which is sometime between 8 and 24 weeks, they've got 10 months from that last day of the covered period to apply for forgiveness. Otherwise, they're going to have to start paying on that loan.
If you have an applicant, someone who's inquiring about a new 7A loan, and we're all waiting for the 504 debt refi, one of the first things out of the box is, hey, let's get these loans forgiven. Both the first draw and as well as the second draw if they're eligible. That just solves that cash flows issue because I know SBA is very clear in their memos. They want you to analyze that, what's going on. Let's see. What else is going on? Let's see in the Senate. We have Senate legislation. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of legislation that I'll just summarize here. This is the Minority Business Resiliency Act, which was introduced, I believe, yesterday. And what this would do would be just making that Minority Business Development Agency a permanent fixture and creating more outreach for minority groups.
Yeah, and that's part of the funding that was in the program for outreach. I'm a fan for all these type of programs where there's a resource for the small business entrepreneur. They can sit down and talk with someone and walk them through the process. Our entrepreneurs, they're experts in one thing, and to be a successful owner these days, you need to be a Renaissance person, and you need to know accounting, marketing, logistics, everything. So this, if there's a hole in their resume, and a lot of obviously finance, that this is a way to go. Let's see what else came in the notice today from SBA that we got.
Yeah, so there's also a PPP flexibility for farmers and ranchers, self-employed act. That one's going to be about it was introduced yesterday in the Senate Small Business Committee. And what it is it's essentially going to create more flexibility for calculating maximum loan amounts and things like that. Unfortunately, the full bill has not been released, but it does sound like a good step.
We don't know what numbers are. Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, it is. What this idea would be that it's retroactive, but I'm not sure how that's going to apply in practice yet. This is just still in the early phase for this one.
So my question is, we have about, $44 billion left in PPP. Is this coming out of that? Is this additional funding on top of that? And the third part, go ahead.
Yeah, so to answer the first question, we don't know if currently it doesn't appear as though this bill is going to include additional funding. So my guess is yes, it would be coming out of that fund. But they always have the possibility of adding a little bit more funding with this, which would be ideal at the very least to include maybe some more for administrative purposes if they're going to make something like this retroactive. But so far, we don't know.
We don't know too much. We don't know whether if someone has already received a PPP second draw loan and they're a farming operation, if they can go back in and get it increased. We don't know that yet, I assume.
Well, they could, but this bill would be doing that essentially.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Is this a wish list legislation, or do you see it passing?
We've had similar bills pass recently, so I wouldn't be surprised if this just got tacked on there. It is pretty likely.
Chair Nidia Velasquez out of New York wants to make sure we have the proper controls for PPP and EIDL. Velasquez has been very bullish on helping Main Street and helping lenders. And she's definitely a fan of SBA, and she's a good person representing or advocating in Congress on behalf of Main Street as well as lenders. But what does she want to see happen?
Yeah, so this is just from the hearing that took place yesterday. They were looking at improving internal controls. They had several people come and testify, including some borrowers and also Government Accountability Office, SBA OAG. In general, the consensus seems that there has been a significant amount of improvement this year over last year, and they're just going to continue to work toward improving those things. Nothing too specific.
Very good. And we know it's going to happen. It's just a matter. It's going to happen. I don't know when, but at some point in time, lenders or cannabis operators will be eligible for small business lending. Who knows when that happens? It's not right away, but it's obviously, it's going to happen. I just can't tell you when. Very good. See, Joseph, do we have questions? See, Joseph, and I asked that you're supposed to come in and say something.
We have two questions.
Go ahead.
Let's see. If they haven't applied, one must assume 24 weeks, wouldn't you think? And they need to make the sole proprietor gross revenue base retroactive to first draw loans made last year. Thank you, Russell. It's just a comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And second question. That's it. Very good. Please send your questions. Oh, Michael, this just in. And yeah, you're right. It's a comment. We need to make those sole proprietor gross revenue loans retroactive to first draw loans made last year. Very interesting. Very interesting. We don't know what the details are of the legislation. The good news is they're still talking about stimulus. They're talking about legislation for that. So that's good. I think we had a slide up there on our reports. Thank you very much for ordering those and supporting us on that. And our webinars, we have a refi on the shelf. Katie, didn't you say we were going to have that 3 weeks ago?
Well, we're still waiting, but I am watching diligently for that. As soon as that comes out, we'll launch that.
Next week, we're going to talk about C-stores, and we're going to do we're still mulling this over as COVID grant and low programs update. I don't know what we're going to do in that. But we're definitely going to do equity injection. We haven't done that in a while. And we're going to update that with respect to the new rules and the new rules specifically that are COVID related. So that is definitely a go. Hey, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate your support. And thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.